I came back from my morning walk just as the sun started to warm the pavement. The porch steps creaked under my feet, and the front door gave that familiar soft groan when I pushed it open. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it. The rustle of boxes, the drag of cardboard against the floor, tape ripping, a drawer opening. I followed the sound. Cora was in my room. She didn't look startled when she saw me. She didn't apologize. She kept folding a stack of my sweaters carefully, like she was being respectful, into a box marked linens. Not even my name, just linens. "Morning," she said lightly, like it was any other day. I figured I'd get a head start. "You'll be more comfortable once it's all settled." I blinked. Settled. She pointed with her chin toward the hallway. "You'll move to the laundry room just for now." "Mom, it's the only space left with a door that closes. Andre's parents need this room." I looked around. My framed wedding photo was missing from the nightstand. A pillow was gone from the bed, the one I embroidered with Henry's initials after his first stroke. My books had been stacked in a milk crate tucked against the dresser. "Did you take the pillow?" I asked. "It's in a storage bin." I didn't want it getting dusty. "Don't worry, I labeled everything." She paused and smiled, proud of herself. "This will be good for everyone. You'll have more privacy downstairs. Plus, it's quieter." The laundry room was where we kept detergent and old paint cans. I didn't speak. My throat burned, but not from anger. Just a quiet ache, like something had already been taken, and I was the last to realize. Cora walked past me with another box and said, "It'll feel like your own little suite, you'll see." Then she disappeared down the stairs without waiting for an answer. I stayed in the doorway a little longer. Everything in that room had once belonged to me, and suddenly, none of it did. By the time I sat back down on the edge of the bed, I knew this wouldn't be the last box to leave this room. It started with 2 duffel bags and a tired voice at my front door. "Just for a few months, Mom, until I find something for the kids and me." Cora's voice cracked when she said it, and I didn't hesitate. Of course she could stay. Of course the kids were welcome. That's what mothers do. I made up the guest room for her, and the kids slept in the study on inflatable mattresses. We stacked library books along the baseboards, and I cooked pancakes for breakfast like it was 1997 again. But months became a year. Then came Andre. He arrived on a Sunday with a sheepish smile and 2 grocery bags calling me Ms. Darrow and offering to cook dinner. He made risotto that night. The kids liked him. Cora glowed. They shared a room within weeks. Then his son came, Jonah, 10 years old, allergic to cats and sensitive to noise. We rehomed my cat without discussion. "Just until we figure things out," she said again. They figured things out all right by spreading into every corner of the house. A second TV appeared in the living room. My grandmother's dishes got pushed to the garage to make room for a new blender. Every time I opened the fridge, there were containers I didn't recognize and meals I didn't cook. I kept telling myself it was still my home. But when I overheard Andre whispering to Cora in the hallway one evening, "Once her stuff's gone, we'll paint the master," I was thinking sage green. I realized they weren't waiting for me to leave. They were waiting for me to disappear. That night, I stood in the laundry room for 20 minutes. Just stood there, smelled the detergent, counted the scuff marks on the linoleum. They said I'd have privacy. What I had was a water heater, an ironing board, and a folding chair next to the dryer. And yet, somehow, I still made my bed, because I hadn't given up yet. But when I walked upstairs the next morning and found a welcome basket on the master bed labeled Roberta Plus Mel, I knew something had shifted for good. They put up new curtains, first yellow with little blue flowers, the kind you'd find in a catalog called Cozy Homes or some other nonsense. Cora had already taken down the sheer white ones I hung after Henry passed. She didn't ask. I found them folded in the donation box beside the coat rack. The recliner came next. One of those oversized things that takes up half a wall. Brown leather loud when it moves. Andre grunted as he wedged it through the doorway, with Jonah holding the base. "Don't scratch the molding," I said quietly. No one looked at me. When I stepped into the room, it smelled different, like cinnamon air freshener and dryer sheets. Roberta's purse was on the dresser. Mel's shoes were lined neatly where my sewing basket used to sit. The drawer with Henry's cufflinks had been emptied and relined with velvet. Her jewelry. There was nothing left of him in that room. I opened the closet and found my coats shoved to one side, hangers mismatched and tilted. Roberta's sweaters hung in the center. Chunky, soft, expensive. I could still remember Henry's laugh when I tried on one like that at a Macy's and walked out without it. "You could knit one better," he told me. I did, and he wore it until the elbows gave out. I turned and saw the corner where he kept his reading chair. Gone. A potted fern sat in its place, now leaves drooping toward the floor. Cora came in behind me, arms crossed. "Mom, you're making this harder than it needs to be." I stared at her. She gestured around. "It's just a room. You've got the downstairs now. Let's try to make this smooth for everyone." I didn't answer. Not right away, because I couldn't tell her what it felt like to walk through the grave of a marriage and find throw pillows in its place. I walked out slowly, one hand grazing the wall, and didn't stop until I was back downstairs, sitting beside the washing machine, where no one had changed a thing. Roberta and Mel moved in like they'd lived there all their lives. They called the kitchen cozy and immediately rearranged the mugs. My favorite one vanished within a day. I found it later in a donation box under the stairs, tucked between an old colander and the picture frame that once held Henry's retirement photo. I didn't say a word. I just took it back out, washed it, and put it on the laundry room shelf next to the detergent. From then on, I kept it there. Safer that way. Cora said it again over dinner. Her new catchphrase. "It's just temporary." She said it with a smile, like she was doing me a favor by softening the truth. Mel adjusted the thermostat after every meal. Roberta left half-full glasses of milk on the counter overnight. The door to my old bedroom stayed cracked open now, as if they were waiting for me to peek inside and admire their improvements. Jonah had his own room. Cora and Andre theirs. That left Roberta and Mel with mine, and me with the corner beside the washing machine. I used to take pride in this house. Every baseboard was cleaned by hand. Henry built the pantry shelves himself after I told him the store-bought ones sagged too easily. He stained them chestnut brown and carved our initials into the back of the top shelf. No one knew that was there. I checked one morning just to see if it still existed. It did, but everything else felt scraped away. I sat with my coffee on the back porch and listened to them laughing inside. Not cruel laughter. Not pointed. Just careless. The kind of laughter you have when you believe no one is losing anything. Cora opened the sliding door and poked her head out. "Mom, could you take your laundry down before noon tomorrow? Roberta likes to wash their sheets early." I nodded. That was all I did. Then I turned back to the yard and watched a squirrel run the length of the fence free fast and going somewhere else. I was folding towels in the hallway when I heard it. Laughter. Light, careless. The kind that bounces off tile and linoleum like it has nothing to hide. They were in the kitchen, Cora, Andre, and Roberta. I heard Andre say something, and then Roberta laughed. Then Cora added something that made the room burst. "Once the old woman adjusts," Roberta said between giggles, "we'll have space for the nursery." The nursery. I stood still, a damp towel in my hands, water pooling beneath my wrist. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee grounds. I couldn't move, couldn't even blink. The joke wasn't cruel. It wasn't even meant for me. That was the part that hurt more than the words. It wasn't said to wound, it was said because they didn't care if I heard it at all. I went back to the laundry room, shut the door. I didn't cry. I turned on the little desk lamp Cora had brought in for me and opened my laptop. I hadn't used it much since Henry passed, but I kept it updated. I typed in realtors near me and clicked the first 3 listings. It wasn't a plan, not yet, but something shifted. I clicked through listings, looked at houses, condos, quiet corners of the city where no one knew my name, places with clean walls and empty shelves, no throw pillows, no echoes of the past. By midnight, I had bookmarked 2 places and sent a message to a realtor named Helen, looking to sell. 3-bed, 2-bath, motivated. I didn't sleep that night, just sat in the low hum of the dryer and watched the inbox on my screen. At 6 the next morning, Helen replied. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Upstairs, they were still sleeping. Roberta's shoes were beside the sink, 1 sock stuffed in the heel. A spoon rested in a mug that used to be mine. I turned the handle on the back door, stepped outside, and let the cold morning air remind me I still had a name, a spine, and a deed. Helen arrived that Friday afternoon right on time. She wore a blue blazer, sensible shoes, and carried a clipboard like it was a compass. You must be Lennis, she said, extending her hand. I nodded. The house is ready. We walked the property together. I said very little. I let the floors speak their smooth shine from decades of care. Let the windows carry the light just right. Let the porch creak in that familiar way I used to love when Henry came home late. 3 bedrooms? 2 baths? A fenced yard? The listing would say that much. It wouldn't mention the birthday parties, or the arguments, or the years I stood at that kitchen window waiting for the oven to ding while Henry watered the tomatoes outside. Still, Helen looked impressed. You've kept this in beautiful shape, she said, walking into what used to be our bedroom, now filled with throw blankets and a leather recliner. I tried, I said. We ended at the kitchen. She asked a few questions. I answered all of them simply. No edge, no emotion. She opened her folder. If you're ready to sign, we can get it listed Monday. It should go fast. I didn't hesitate. My hand didn't shake. The pen felt heavier than it should have, but I signed my name with a steady line. Congratulations, she said. When she left, I stood in the living room alone. It was quiet. The kind of quiet I once craved. Now it pressed in like a memory. It was Saturday morning a week later. Bright and clean. No clouds. No warnings. I parked across the street under the sycamore tree where Henry used to trim the branches too low. From there, I could see the porch clearly. I had my coffee in a to-go cup and my hands steady on the wheel. They came around 10. A small silver sedan pulled up to the curb. Out stepped a young woman in dark jeans and a striped shirt, holding a manila envelope close to her chest. Her husband followed behind her, tall, confident, smiling, like the world had finally tilted in his favor. Behind them, a van marked Whitman Locksmith & Co. eased into the driveway. Cora came to the door in a robe, barefoot. I saw her hesitate as the young woman approached. Hi, the woman said, flipping open the envelope. We just closed on the house Friday. Is this still 1429 Chandler Drive? Cora's mouth moved, but no sound came out. I saw her take the papers, saw her read the signatures, mine among them. She turned slowly toward the living room, then back toward the porch, where the locksmith was already unloading his tools. The husband was explaining something about changing codes and installing a keypad. The wife smiled and said how much she loved the porch swing. Said she'd seen the listing 2 days before it vanished and knew it was theirs. I could almost see Cora shrinking. Not angry. Not yet. Just confused. The locksmith set down his drill. The man took a photo of the front steps. The woman handed Cora back the folder gently, like she wasn't sure if this was a misunderstanding or something much deeper. And me, I watched, Not bitter, not triumphant, just still, like the wind after a long storm. Cora stepped backward into the house. The locksmith moved forward, and I started the car. No hurry, no noise. Just the quiet hum of a woman who had already left long before the door ever closed behind her. The door slammed against the frame so hard, my neighbor from 4B peeked through her peephole. Cora didn't wait for an invitation. She came in like a storm already, mid-sentence, hair pulled back red in the face, clutching her phone like a weapon. "You didn't even warn us," she snapped. "You just sold it like it meant nothing." I didn't move from my chair. Just set my coffee down and looked up. "You didn't ask me," I said when you gave my room away. She froze. That was the thing about Cora. She was always surprised when someone else had lines memorized, too. "I thought we were family," she said, her voice breaking at the edge. "You blindsided us." I stood up slowly. "You made decisions without me, Cora. Again and again. Where I slept, what I kept, what I gave up." Her arms dropped to her sides. "It was just a room. No, it was my room. In my house." She looked around the condo, then like seeing it for the first time. Sparse, quiet. A single suitcase still tucked near the entryway, the smell of fresh coffee and orange peel from the candle on the counter. "You live here now?" she asked, softer. "I do." She looked down. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." "I did more than leave," I said. "I left well." Her face twisted somewhere between disbelief and shame. "We have nowhere to go, Mom." "You have options," I said. Just like I had one. And I took it. For the first time, Cora didn't speak. She just stood there, shoulders sagging under the weight of a decision she never imagined would come back to her. I walked past her and opened the door. "I didn't do this to punish you," I said quietly. "I did it to protect myself." And I waited. She didn't move. Then slowly she stepped out into the hallway, out of my space, out of her control, and I closed the door behind her without a single word more. The knock came just before dusk. Not urgent, just careful. I opened the door and there he was, Eli standing with his backpack slung too low, his shoelaces loose, and eyes that looked too grown for 12. "Hey, Grandma," he said. "Hi, baby," I replied, stepping aside. He came in like he used to, like it was still Saturday, and we were going to bake something. I didn't ask how he got here. I figured Cora had finally run out of words. We sat at the small table by the window. I poured us both a glass of water. He didn't touch his. "Mom said you're mad at us," he mumbled. "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm tired." He nodded like he understood that more than he should. After a long pause, he looked up. "Do you still love us?" I reached across the table and held his hand. "I do. I always will." "Then why'd you leave?" I took a breath, choosing the words with care. "Because love isn't a reason to let people hurt you." He blinked, like no one had ever said that out loud before. "I thought you'd always live in the big house." "So did I." He looked around the condo. "It's smaller. It's mine." He smiled a little at that. Not the big, toothy grin he used to give when he was 5. Just a soft curve of understanding, like something inside him had shifted. "I miss your pancakes," he said. "They're better in places with peace," I replied. He nodded again, then stood slowly. No hug, no rush, just a quiet goodbye in his eyes. "I have to go," he said. "But I'll come back." "You always can," I told him, "when it's your choice." He turned toward the door, and just before he left, he looked back at me. "I think I get it," he said, and I believed him. Because something in his voice had changed. Not childish, not angry, just clear. The way a boy sounds when he's learning that love and respect are two different things, and both must be earned. The mornings are quiet now. No shuffling in the hallway. No distant voices planning things without me. Just the low hum of the fridge, the occasional creak of the porch wood settling under my chair, and the gentle warmth of the coffee mug in my hands. I sit facing east. Let the light come in without asking permission. It smells like new beginnings here, like pine soap and something sweet in the air. I haven't been able to name yet. I don't need to name it. I just breathe it in and call it mine. No one asks me to move. No one tells me what's temporary or practical or what makes more sense for someone else. I didn't buy this place for the view or the space or the floors. I bought it because it came with a lock I chose and a key that no one else copied. This morning, I moved the living room rug 2 inches to the left, not because it needed to be moved, but because I felt like it. I made pancakes. Just for me. I left the plate in the sink. No guilt. At noon, I answered an email from a friend I hadn't seen in 5 years. She said, "You sound different." I replied, "I am." I didn't explain. I don't explain anymore. In the afternoon, I started a puzzle by the window, one with lighthouses and stormy skies, the kind Henry used to hate because the colors were too similar. I smiled at that. It felt good to smile without checking who was watching. By sunset, the house was just as I left it. No one had moved my things. No one had left their jacket on my chair or turned the TV too loud. The stillness wasn't empty. It was full of choice, full of breath, full of the version of me that doesn't apologize for needing space or claiming it. I finished my coffee, closed the book, turned off the light. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder what might happen next.